Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of Maryland Pork Producers Summer Learning Series. Today we have Dr. Meredith Peterson, who's going to be telling you guys everything you need to know about show biosecurity. Dr. Meredith Peterson joined the National Pork Board in 2024 as a Director of Swine Health. In this role, she collaborates with others on the swine health and production team on projects related to both foreign and endemic disease. Dr. Peterson helps manage the Secure Pork Supply Plan and the Certified Swine Sample Collector programs at NPB. Prior to joining the National Pork Board, Dr. Peterson was a postdoctoral research associate at the Swine Medicine Education Center, a role that focused on applied swine research, teaching, and clinical swine medicine. Go ahead and take it away, Dr. Peterson.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me. Excited to kind of share some background information on biosecurity with the show pig producers in Maryland. So I don't know if I'll teach you all you need to know about biosecurity, but I'll do my best in the short time we have. And we'll really kind of focus on biosecurity specific for show pigs. So we'll talk about biosecurity practices, kind of some general ones, but then also practices that you can use at the show to help keep your pig and other pigs as healthy as possible. So really wanted to kick off by stressing the importance of having a biosecurity plan. So the word biosecurity is really focused on steps that are taken to prevent the introduction of a pathogen into a farm and to manage infection once present. So the practices that we put in place to keep any sort of disease off of your farm, as well as keep, if you have a pathogen or a disease on your farm, to keep it from spreading to others around you. And a good reason to have a biosecurity plan is it allows you to specifically outline and address all the different risks you could have for disease introduction. So we know that viruses, bacteria, pathogens can be transferred in a variety of ways. So they can come in on the pigs themselves, but they can also be spread via fomites. And so a fomite is like a surface or an object that might be contaminated and then infect another pig. And so you really, as you're making a biosecurity plan, if you're thinking about all the different potential risks, all the different potential exposures that your pigs have, the things that you're bringing into your farm, you should consider what practices could help reduce the risk of those items. Having a biosecurity plan also allows you to engage and train anyone that's going to be at your farm so that they know the different practices they can put in place that are pretty simple to keep your pigs healthy every day. And then having the plan is important. It allows you to periodically assess what's being done at your farm to make sure that everyone is kind of following the right biosecurity protocols. So in terms of biosecurity programs in the United States, the pork industry has two programs that are very focused on biosecurity. The first is the PQA, or Pork Quality Assurance Plus program. This is an industry program that was developed in 1989, and it has a variety of components, one of which is having a biosecurity plan as part of a herd health plan. Another one, which we'll talk a little bit more about today, is the Secure Pork Supply Plan. And what this is a business continuity plan. So it's really developed for if we were to get a foreign animal disease in the United States, so something like African swine fever, classical swine fever, or foot and mouth disease. The Secure Pork Supply Plan is a way that producers can be prepared in advance of that foreign animal disease outbreak. So hopefully we can minimize the outbreak and get back to business continuity. In the case of show pig producers, get back to showing as quickly as possible. So a key component of that Secure Pork Supply Plan is an enhanced biosecurity plan, which again, I'll go into a little more detail later on of what that looks like. But just for your awareness, these are a couple of different programs in the United States that the industry supports that have biosecurity components. So we'll talk a little bit about general biosecurity practices. There's a lot of different very basic things you can do to try to keep disease out of your farm and control disease that's on your farm. So this is really practices to prevent, again, introduction and transmission of disease. The biggest recommendation I would have for anyone raising pigs is to make sure you have a clear line of separation. So have a clear, clean, and dirty line. And what this line is it basically is a line that separates the outside world, which we would consider dirty, with the inside animal areas, farm itself, which we would consider clean. And so the objective here is to make sure that any potential contamination, whether that's you were at a different pig farm, or you were at a show, or you purchased something from a show, or you had something delivered to your farm, anything that's getting brought into the animal areas should have some sort of practice in place to mitigate the risk of disease. So if it's a person, maybe it's just site-specific boots. If it's an object, maybe it's cleaning and disinfecting. Another easy way, an important thing in terms of biosecurity is to make sure you're just tracking movement on and off the farm. And this is considered traceability. So understanding where your pigs have been and where they're going is really important. That way, if there is a disease outbreak, we know what their exposure level is. Other items that are important are fencing. So you want to make sure your fencing is in good shape. Cleaning and disinfection is really critical. So I mentioned having that line of separation. Anything that comes across should be cleaned and disinfected. So if you're thinking about coming back from a show, you should be cleaning that show box and the materials that you're using at the show. And then following biosecurity steps for feed mills and deliveries, that's a little bit more on the feed mill side. And then there's different personnel entry processes you can use. So, not all farms will have a shower, but it's pretty easy to set up a bench entry. So you can see in the photo on the screen, there's a bench entry that this employee is taking her shoes off on the dirty side. She'll leave those on the outside of the farm. She'll swing her legs over the bench and walk into the farm and put on farm specific clothing and shoes. So that's a really easy way, low cost way to just kind of have that visual line of separation. Again, here's some photos depicting what the line of separation might look like. If you're thinking about from a show perspective, if you're taking your pigs to a weigh-in or something like that, you also want to consider the line of separation at the trailer. So as you are working with your pig or going on and off the trailer, you should be the only one interacting and entering the trailer. Again, loading pigs in and out, having a defined line of separation is really important. And then sanitation, as I mentioned, is important. So we can't disinfect manure. We can't disinfect things that aren't cleaned initially. And so anytime you're bringing new supplies onto the farm or returning from a show, you want to make sure that everything's really clean, and then you apply a disinfectant to it. And you can just, read the label on the disinfectant bottle to make sure you're using that appropriately. Another easy thing is just using disposable boots and coveralls. So if you're at a farm that's not your own, or at your own, having specific farm clothing or specific boots that you put on when you cross that line of separation is just an easy way to mitigate the risk of you dragging something onto the site. So we at Pork Checkoff have developed a lot of different resources associated with biosecurity. If you go to the pork store, so if you just type into your browser pork store, it should be one of the first links that come up. You can download all of these one-page biosecurity documents. It's a quick one-page background on different processes that might need increased biosecurity. And so these are ones that are probably a little bit more commercial focused. So they're on manure management, mortality management, non-farm personnel, pig transport, and truck wash. But we also have one-page documents that are show pig specific. So we'll talk a little bit more about these ones. And so for exhibition swine specifically, we have one-pagers on the weighing and tagging events and biosecurity things to consider there. Considerations for the exhibition and sale. So if you are helping assist with an exhibition or a sale, kind of some things to keep in mind to keep everyone safe and every pig as healthy as possible. And then for the exhibitor themselves. So if you're taking your pigs to a show, this is kind of a one-pager to walk you through things to do before, during, and after the show to help keep your pigs healthy. So we'll jump into what some of these practices are. If we're thinking about a weigh-in or a tagging event, in terms of biosecurity, obviously this is a place that you're going to be congregating a lot of pigs. So what you want to do is just control what you can and mitigate the risks that you can. And so one of the ways you can do that is just ensuring all equipment has been cleaned, disinfected, and dried before use. So that includes the tagger, the scale, any pens, alleyways, things like that should be cleaned between groups as well. And then the owner should be the only one going into the trailers to sort or restrain pigs. And that's important because as the staff that's working that event, if they're going into each trailer and not necessarily changing boots or changing coveralls, there's a potential if trailer A has a pig that has some sort of pathogen, they could be transmitting it to the other pigs that they see after that. So the owners should be the only ones on the trailer, and then wearing clean clothes or disposable coveralls and plastic boot covers would also be recommended. So again, at the event, tagging and ear notching, make sure to disinfect and at least wipe down those taggers and ear notchers between each pig. If you're vaccinating, make sure you wipe down the exterior of the syringe between each pig. And then of course use a new needle for each pig. So we want to make sure that we're not injecting one pig and then going to the next and going to the next. That way, again, if a pig is, may not be showing clinical signs, they could potentially still be incubating something or have some sort of pathogen that your pigs don't. And we just want to make sure these events aren't kind of spreading events. So that's a little bit about weigh-in and tagging. We'll talk just briefly here about if you're helping with a swine exhibition or a sale, things to think about in terms of biosecurity. So before the event, you should engage with a veterinarian to be on site, assist with animal check-in, daily health evaluations, and also help you set up a biosecurity plan for the event itself. It'll be important to establish an isolation area for any sick pigs identified. So, if you have pigs at an event for several days, there's always that potential that, someone's pig starts coughing or another pig shows clinical signs. And that can happen, but it's important to have an isolation identified that if you do get sick pigs, if they're not able to just go back home, they have a spot on the grounds that isn't going to expose a bunch of others. And then ensure all of the staff understand how to identify sick pigs. So a little bit of training about clinical signs and what kinds of things to watch for, and your veterinarian will be able to help identify those things as well. So we'll talk a little bit here now about what to do during the event in terms of biosecurity. So at the check-in, you want to make sure that health certificates are reviewed and that each pig is evaluated for any signs of illness. And again, it's important here to really avoid entering trailers and washing hands between each group of pigs. That way, the people that are evaluating the pigs aren't going trailer to trailer to trailer and potentially moving disease. Anytime there's a sick pig, that pig should either be removed, so sent home from the showgrounds, or the isolation area should be set up to keep that pig from exposing others. Biosecurity measures should be followed with sick pigs, and importantly, if you move a sick pig either off the site or if it goes to an isolation area, you want to make sure to clean and disinfect that pig's pen. That way, as others are passing by, or if you backfill it with a different one, there's not a potential for disease transfer. So in terms of isolation, if you're putting pigs in isolation at a show, there are a few things to keep in mind about where to set this area up. This area should be away from other animals and event traffic, because obviously these pigs are sick, have the potential to infect others, so we don't want to have that cross-contamination. The only people that go into the isolation area should be the caretaker, so the person who's responsible for feeding, watering, taking care of that pig, and the veterinarian. So you really want to minimize the number of people that are interacting with the sick pig, because that'll reduce the amount of people who might drag the pathogen back to the healthy animals. This area should have disposable coveralls and boots that are disposed of when leaving. So that way, nothing that the sick pig is potentially infected with gets taken away from there. And then any supplies and equipment that's used should be cleaned, disinfected, and allowed to dry before it's taken out of that area. So for the show pig exhibitors themselves, these are some things to think about before the event. You should reach out to your veterinarian about biosecurity measures that you can take to reduce the risk of your pigs getting sick. Your veterinarian can also complete your health certificate and make sure that you meet all of the health requirements for whatever show you're going to. So you'll really want to make sure to contact your vet before you ever head to a show. It's also important to have your premises identification number for your farm and individual IDs on each pig. This will help with tracking purposes and is required for a lot of shows. And then, as we talked about, you want to make sure that everything you're taking from one place to another doesn't have the potential to be contaminated with a pathogen. And so your show box should be clean and disinfected. And then you don't want to bring your pig that's sick to an exhibition or sale. I know it's hard when you've put a lot of time and energy into getting something ready, but really everyone needs to do their part in terms of if you have a sick animal, you shouldn't be bringing it to an event where it could potentially expose others. So during the event, you want to make sure that you keep your pets at home as they can spread potential pathogens to pigs. Keep an eye on your pig every day. You know what their normal looks like and what their abnormal might look like. And so you want to make sure you're kind of monitoring them. If you see anything that seems out of the norm for your pig's behavior, make sure you report that to the show organizer or the veterinarian at the event. I know it's tempting and you want to help out your friends who are showing pigs, but it's important to try not to share equipment when possible. So again, your pig or your neighbor's pig might have different pathogens, and sharing equipment between one and another has the potential to spread disease, even if your pigs themselves seem healthy. And then make sure you're keeping your area clean and free of manure for anyone walking by. So after the event, there's a few things to keep in mind as you're bringing your pigs home. If you have other pigs on your farm other than the ones that you took to the show, it's important to isolate the ones that were at the show from the other pigs. So keep them in a separate area where they don't have nose-to-nose contact with the other pigs on your farm. That way, if they do pick something up, they don't spread it throughout the farm. They can work through the disease themselves and don't spread it to the others. It's also important to make sure that those pigs are the last ones that you interact with or chore each day, because again, they have increased risk of potentially being sick. And so we just want to make that the last visit of the day, and then make sure you're showering and changing after and before you go back into the rest of the herd. You can have dedicated boots and clothing in the isolation area, so the area that you have for the show pigs. And then as you would at the show, make sure you're monitoring your pigs daily for any signs of illness. If they start showing symptoms, give your veterinarian a call and they can come out and help you work through if there's any treatments that are needed. So we have a variety of other biosecurity resources on that pork store website. So if you go to Pork Checkoff's website, you can find all of these different checklists, a lot of good educational content if you want to learn more about biosecurity. So we'll briefly touch on the Secure Pork Supply Plan here, just so you kind of have an idea of what this industry program is that has biosecurity as a component. So the Secure Pork Supply Plan was initially funded by USDA APHIS, Veterinary Services, and the National Pork Board. It's a voluntary program that provides a business continuity plan for pork premises that are affected by movement controls, but not infected with a foreign animal disease. So what that means is if we were to get a foreign animal disease in the United States, the three that we have in pigs are foot and mouth disease, classical swine fever, and African swine fever. Those are not present in the US swine herd, but we have a lot of planning in place to prepare if we were to get one. And with that planning is guidance from the regulatory side, so from the state veterinarians and the USDA, with what the response might look like. And that response guidance says that if a farm is infected, they'll draw a control area around that farm. And any other farms that are within that control area need to have additional requirements to be able to move their pigs because their neighbor is infected, and so they're at increased risk. And so that's just kind of some background on why this plan was developed. It was really developed for those farms who aren't infected themselves, but their neighbors might be infected. And it's a way for producers to proactively prepare. So you as a show pig exhibitor or show pig producer, you can prepare for a foreign animal disease before it's an emergency time. And a key component of the Secure Pork Supply Plan is the Enhanced Biosecurity Plan. So all of the Secure Pork Supply resources are available on securepork.org. If you go under pork producers across the top and click on biosecurity, that'll take you to a whole bunch of resources specific to biosecurity. And specifically, what you can see on the screen here is there's templates for biosecurity plans. So you can pull this out, make your biosecurity plan, then you have it if you need it in the case of a foreign animal disease. But I think it's really important to also notice that most of the things in this biosecurity plan are things that you can and should be doing every day and will, again, reduce your risk of getting a disease pathogen in your farm for things that we already have in the industry. So endemic diseases like PED or PRRS, things that may significantly impact your pig's ability to show. And so that's a resource to keep in mind. We do at Pork Checkoff, we're working on a enhanced biosecurity plan specific for show pig producers within Secure Pork Supply. That should be available in early 2026. So that'll be on this website once available. And if that makes more sense to wait till that comes out for your farm, feel free to do so. But just know we have more show pig specific resources coming in the Secure Pork Supply Plan. So with that, I'd just like to thank you for having me. Hopefully you found this educational and have a little better background on what kind of biosecurity practices can help you as you're showing. And I wish you good luck in your show season. Have fun and hopefully you keep biosecurity in mind to keep your pig and other pigs healthy as well. So with that, I'll pass it back over to Maggie. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Dr. Peterson, for taking some time to come out and talk to us. We greatly appreciate it. If any of our audience has questions, do you want me to take them and direct them to you, or is there a contact that maybe they could ask if they have any specific questions?
Yeah, so you can either send them to Maggie or feel free to shoot me an email. My email is mpeterson, Mpetersen, @pork.org. So I'm happy to answer questions, or if they get them to you, you know where to find me as well.
Awesome. That sounds great. Thank you so much, Dr. Peterson.
You bet.